Devil's Racecourse, Chapter 1. Written by Tim Vincent. Narrated by the author. They're goats! Stevie hung his head out the back window. No, they're sheep! Ralph struggled to look past Stevie, getting pulled back by his seatbelt. Ralph, those are goats! He shoved his brother back into his seat without turning his head. Stevie, you're a fucking idiot! Those were sheep! Jamie, those were sheep, right? Ralph crossed his arms and slumped into the cushion. Jamie stared ahead at the winding road, completely unbothered. I shot her a glance without flinching. She shot me back a smirk. We were both well acquainted with this kind of banter from the boys. Parker! Stevie whimpered out at me, placing both of his hands on my shoulders and pressing his fingertips down into my collarbones. I didn't respond. Goats have horns. Those things didn't have horns, Ralph muttered out. But they didn't have wool either. Sheep have wool, he rebutted, cocking his head as the car continued past the farm. It's April, you dickhead. They were probably just sheared. Ralph flicked him in the back of the neck. Stevie took his eyes off of the fenced-in pasture for the first time and stared at his younger brother, searching for something to say, scouring the shallow depths of his brain for even an inkling of something factual, or at the very least, a clever insult. But as always, he was stumped. Ralph could have a full-time career in making his brother look like an idiot. Outwitting him had always been his strong suit. Stevie sank into his seat, defeated. Hey, it would be cool if they were goats, though, I said gently, looking back at my best friend to offer him some kind of solace for his easy, shame-filled loss. And it wasn't a lie. I think all of us could agree that it would be a phenomenal breakthrough in the lore that we'd built up in our heads if there was a goat farm up the street from Devil's Racecourse. That one perfect atmospheric touch to an already terrifying story. But alas, they were just sheep. Stevie gave me a half smile before directing his eyes down to his fidgeting hands. His gingery brown hair seemed to glow in the midday sun. His pale skin was flushed with embarrassment. I felt bad for him. As bad as it sounds, I kind of always did. Stevie befriended Jamaica and I in the 3rd grade. He was a loud kid, the product of severe ADHD and middle child syndrome. He was the kind of kid that said whatever was on his mind, no matter how blatantly incorrect it was, which it often was. He was overly excitable, constantly moving, constantly looking for a fight or an arbitrary victory. But deep down inside, he was gentle. That was his saving grace, I guess. The three of us, we went way back. Jamie, she was our natural leader. She was always orchestrating a game for us to play, like kings and queens and cops and robbers and Greek gods, and she and I played by ourselves for a long while. Until we stumbled on Stevie one day, alone, trying to hop between the wooden planks. We initiated him into the games, always as a role that was the least respected, roles that we admittedly shit on way more than we needed to, but Stevie never minded. He was just happy to not be alone. Ralphie was almost 4 years younger than Stevie, but it was always clear that he was the quicker of the two. Jamie and I would play board games at their house every Tuesday after school. I think he knew that Stevie would kick him out if he ever asked to play with us, so he never did. Instead, he just waited. Every time Stevie got up to use the bathroom or let the dogs out, he would just coincidentally enter the room to grab something, always arriving with a natural conversation ready to be started, an interesting question to be asked, a fact that we didn't know. He had a slick tongue, even at a young age, and we couldn't deny that we appreciated his company too, a fact that most likely killed Stevie inside at that age. I mean, Ralph got everything first. The fawning attention of his parents for getting straight A's, an iPod as his reward, his own room, the chance to move from Little League to the major division on their baseball team. He was even the first to get the IE off of his name. The first and only thing that Stevie had over him were his friends. But 10 years later, since Ralph started that first conversation with us, just passing by to grab a glass of water, and whether Stevie liked it or not, we loved them both the same. Well, that was partially true. Jamie regarded both of the boys the same. Ralph was smart. He was as smart as her. Stevie was as passionate about the occult. Ralph had a charm about him that was second to none. He'd grown into his mischief, finding power in how slick and intelligent he truly could be. He was handsome. But Stevie was more handsome to me. He was my age. He just struggled to embrace his naivety, to cultivate that part of himself. But I loved him regardless. We arrived at the racecourse shortly after passing the sheep farm. Jamie parked on a shoulder up the road to the right. It wasn't the most convenient parking spot, but there didn't really look to be a better option right now. The entrance was still taped off by a thick layer of yellow caution tape, a sight that still sent chills down my spine every time. They still hadn't found those boys. Gregory Davis and Terrence Clarksburg. The two of them went to school a few towns over. Obviously, I'd never met either of them, but they were Ralph's age. Gregory's car was found empty in the entrance. There was no blood anywhere, no phones, no evidence of foul play. Just a sweater on a rock and a flashlight in a shallow hole. Our entire county put out a search and rescue team and a PSA to stay away from the Appalachian trails, especially near the boulder field off Ritchie Road. But almost a month had passed. The sun was setting later and later as we made our way into April, and nothing of substance was found. This boulder field in question was many things to many different people. A hidden gem for hikers on the Appalachian Trail, a hangout spot for potheads and goth potheads, a beautiful natural landmark, but to me, it was the holder of something truly malevolent. I couldn't put a finger on it, but there was something in that small area that caused me this great unease. The boy's older brother Dylan took us there for the first time when we were 15. I felt it as soon as I hopped up on the closest rock. People had reported crazy stuff there for years. Dylan told us all of his best ghost stories, strange lights passing through the trees, white figures standing on the rocks at night, odd sights hiding in cracks and crevices. But worst of all was the noise, or lack thereof. Sometimes you enter the area and it's silent. So silent you begin to feel suffocated by it. No birds chirping, no wind howling, just dead silence. It's only in that silence that you can really hear the water running underneath the rocks. The namesake, the devil of Devil's Racecourse. And a few times the water doesn't sound like water at all. It sounds like, "Parker!" Jamie snapped me out of my thought. "You coming?" I unbuckled myself and joined my friends. I hadn't even realized that they had all swiftly exited the car. Stevie had already begun charging down the path, a semi-clear trail that led to the opening. I caught up to walk side by side with Jamie. She gave me a look that I'd seen too many times before, a look that spoke louder than she ever would. She knew me far too well. "The birds are chirping today?" I watched as two woodpeckers danced through the air, one chasing the other in a vigorous pursuit. From a nearby branch, a large blackbird followed our arrival into the threshold with its eyes. "That's always a relieving sign." She smiled at me. A weak smile, knowing that nothing she said could clear the tension I felt walking down this path right now. "Of course, the new graffiti doesn't help." She winced as we walked past the tree, branded with a white swastika inside of a bottomless triangle, 3 Ks written haphazardly below it. The land is still beautiful, the people, not so much. I laughed weakly. She picked up a rock and chucked it at the tree, only managing to chip off a small chunk of the bark. We continued deeper down the path. "Look, I don't like it either, Park. But they think we're going to find something. Just give them half an hour to play pretend detectives, and we'll head home." This didn't sit well with me. I didn't feel like playing pretend. There was nothing mystical to me about boys our age just vanishing. Sure, there were houses scattered scarcely through Ritchie Road. But either way you walk, it would take a half hour to get to an intersecting road, and on foot, hours to get to the nearest public restaurant or gas station. I mean, where could they have gone? Down the trail past the boulder? Towards the Appalachian Trail, deeper into the woods? Why would anyone in their right mind do that? Especially without their flashlights. Reports say that the car worked fine. It started right up, drove right out, but there lies the issue for me. Their key. The key was found dangling from the car's lock, like someone tried to get to the car. Someone almost made it, but just didn't. No. I don't believe that they just left it there. You don't unlock a car from the outside to get out of it. But you sure as hell do if you're trying to get in. We broke through the tree line. Ralph was already on the rocks, searching, taking in the scene from our new twisted perspective. Stevie searched the grass, probably thinking the less obvious areas on the landscape would be where he'd find something. What that something was, I'm not quite sure. Why the two of them really believed that even though the entire police investigating team, as well as the search and rescue party of over 55 patrons could scour these entire woods, every rock, every boulder, every blade of grass, and somehow they would be the ones to find something new. It was just pointless. It was a waste of time, but mostly, it was giving me anxiety. Every time I turned my back, I was filled with this feeling in my gut that one of them would just vanish by the time that my eyes returned to them. The idea that anyone could just disappear was too intense for me. I used to love being scared. The hair on the back of my neck standing up on its own, the feeling in the pit of my stomach like gravel in a blender, my fingers tensing. It was a rush, especially here. The sound of water running deep through the rocks could make you believe anything. Something was talking to you, something was watching you, something was behind you for just a moment, just long enough for you to feel it. That noise was so faint, you could almost hear it. It was whimsical, mystical, pretend. But now the mystique was gone. A shining sun covered by a thick black cloud of truth. This wasn't a place for lighting up a joint or telling a ghost story anymore. This was the scene of a crime, whether or not the police wanted to classify it as such. I can't find the hole, Ralph searched, hopping fearlessly from rock to rock. Stevie's head popped up at the sound of what he could interpret as a meaningless excuse to compete with his brother. He bolted for the boulders, leaping with athletic agility. He cleared an impressive 20 feet or so before tiring himself out, but the search was on. Jamie hopped up on the nearest flat rock and extended a hand towards me. Shall we? If we must. I reached for her hand and hoisted myself up to join her. Usually nothing seemed as scary in the daylight, but on occasion, Devil's Racecourse seemed to defy that logic. It broke down that protective wall in my brain that kept me safe. I watched as my 3 closest friends reached their arms between every crack leading deep into the ground. Who knows how far? I watched as they turned over every rock that they could move, searching for over an hour for what? A lost shoe? A dropped phone? An arm? A leg? A whole damn body of some young, innocent kid? Or 2 kids? There was nothing to find that hadn't already been found. Yet my stomach turned every time they unearthed a new section of rocks. I had to remind myself to breathe. Nothing out here could hurt me. It was a beautiful day. I'm here sitting under the scorching sun with 3 of my favorite people. There's nothing here that could hurt me. But along the tree line, behind the branches, almost completely covered by brush and leaves and tall overgrown grass, something did catch my eye. Or rather, I caught its. I was sucked into them. 2 rigid orbs, like black tourmaline. Crystal balls I could see right through. As soon as our eyes met, it pulsed for a moment, taking a wide stance and focusing in on me. We both sat like that, frozen for a moment, my eyes only twitching downward enough to see exposed flesh where its nostril features should have laid. It lifted its chin, a buck, before turning slowly and running deep into the woods, a run like nothing I'd ever seen. Depending primarily on its hind legs, haphazardly grinding its front hooves into the dirt, fast enough that I couldn't quite describe its figure, that strange figure, but slow enough to assure me that whatever it was not running because it was scared of me, but rather as a reminder that I should be of it.